"This unrest is all Veterinary's fault," said the Duke of Arl. "The man has no style. So now, of course, we have a city where grocers have as much influence as barons. He even let the plumbers form a guild. That's against nature, in my humble opinion."
"It wouldn't be so bad if he set some kind of social example," said Lady Omnius. "Or even governed," said Lady Salachi. "People seem to be able to get away with anything."
"I admit that the old kings were not necessarily our kind of people towards the end," said the Duke of Arl. "But at least they stood for something, in my humble opinion. We had a decent city in those days. People were more respectful and knew their place. People put in a decent day's work. They didn't laze around all the time, and we certainly didn't open the gates to whatever riffraff was capable of walking through. And of course, we also had law. Isn't that so, Captain?"
Captain Samuel Vimes stared glassily at a point somewhere to the left and just above the speaker's left ear. Cigar smoke hung almost motionless in the air. Vimes was dimly aware that he'd spent several hours eating too much food in the company of people he didn't like. He longed for the smell of damp streets and the feel of the cobbles under his cardboard soles. A tray of postprandial drinks was orbiting the table, but Vimes hadn't touched it because it upset Sybil, and she tried not to show it, and that upset him even more. The bear huggers had worn off. He hated being sober. It meant he started to think. One of the thoughts, jostling for space, was that there was no such thing as a humble opinion. He hadn't had much experience with the rich and powerful. Coppers didn't, as a rule. It wasn't that they were less prone to commit crimes. It was just that the crimes they committed tended to be so far above the normal level of criminality that they were beyond the reach of men with bad boots and rusting mail. Owning 100 slum properties wasn't a crime, although living in one was. Almost. Being an assassin, the guild never actually said so, but an important qualification was being the son or daughter of a gentleman wasn't a crime. If you had enough money, you could hardly commit crimes at all. You just perpetuated amusing little peccadillos. "And now everywhere you look, it's uppity dwarfs and trolls and rude people," said Lady Salachi. "There's more dwarfs in Ankh-Morpork now than there are in any of their own cities, or whatever they call their holes."
"What do you think, Captain?"
said the Duke of Arl. Captain Vimes picked up a grape and started turning it over and over in his fingers.
"The current ethnic problem. Are we having one?" "Well, yes. Look at Quarry Lane. There's fighting there every night."
"And they have absolutely no concept of religion." Vimes examined the grape minutely. What he wanted to say was, of course they fight. They're trolls. Of course they bash one another with clubs. Trollish is basically body language, and, well, they like to shout. In fact, the only one who ever gives anyone any real trouble is that bastard Chrysoprase, and that's only because he apes humans and is a quick learner. As for religion, troll gods were hitting one another with clubs 10,000 years before we'd even stopped trying to eat rocks. But the memory of the dead dwarf stirred something perverse in his soul. He put the grape back on his plate. "Definitely," he said. "In my view, the godless bastards should be rounded up and marched out of the city at spear point." There was a moment's silence. "It's no more than they deserve," Vimes added. "Exactly. They're barely more than animals," said Lady Omnius. Vimes suspected her first name was Sarah. "Have you noticed how massive their heads are?" said Vimes. "That's really just rock. Very small brains." "And morally, of course," said Lord Arl. There was a murmur of vague agreement. Vimes reached for his glass. "Willikins, I don't think Captain Vimes wants any wine," said Lady Ramkin. "Wrong," said Vimes cheerfully. "And while we're on the subject, how about the dwarfs?" "I don't know if anyone's noticed," said Lord Arl, "but you certainly don't see as many dogs about as you used to." Vimes stared. It was true about the dogs. There didn't seem to be quite so many mooching around these days. That was a fact. But he'd visited a few dwarf bars with Carrot, and knew that dwarfs would, indeed, eat dog, but only if they couldn't get rat. And 10,000 dwarfs eating continuously with knife, fork, and shovel wouldn't make a dent in Ankh-Morpork's rat population. It was a major feature in dwarfish letters back home. Come on, everyone, and bring the ketchup. Notice how small their heads are? He managed. Very limited cranial capacity, surely. A fact of measurement. And you never see their women, said Lady Sarah Omnius. I find that very suspicious. You know what they say about dwarfs, she added darkly. Vimes sighed. He was just about aware that you saw their women all the time, although they looked just like the male dwarfs. Surely everyone knew that, who knew anything about dwarfs. Cunning little devils, too, said Lady Slotchie. Sharp as needles. You know, Vimes shook his head, that's what's so damn annoying, isn't it? The way they can be so incapable of any rational thought, and so bloody shrewd at the same time. Only Vimes saw the look Lady Ramkin flashed him. Lord Arl stubbed out a cigar. Let us move in and take over, and work away like ants all the time. Real people should be getting some sleep. It's not natural. Vimes' mind circled the comment and compared it to the earlier one about a decent day's work. Well, one of them won't be working so hard, said Lady Omnius. My maid said one of them was found in the river this morning. Probably some tribal war or something. It's a start anyway, said Lord Arl, laughing. Not that anyone will notice one more or less. Vimes smiled brightly. There was a wine bottle near his hand, despite Willikin's tactful best efforts to remove it. The neck looked invitingly grippable. He was aware of eyes on him. He looked across the table into the face of a man who was watching him intently, and whose last contribution to the conversation had been, "Would you be so kind as to pass me the seasonings, Captain?" There was nothing remarkable about the face, except for the gaze, which was absolutely calm and mildly amused. It was Dr. Crucius. Vimes had the strong impression that his thoughts were being read. "Samuel?" Vimes' hand stopped halfway to the bottle. Willikins was standing next to her ladyship. "Apparently there's a young man at the door asking for you," said Lady Ramkin. "Corporal Carrot." "Gosh, this is exciting," said Lord Arl. "Has he come to arrest us, do you think?" "Ha," said Vimes. Lord Arl nudged his partner. "I suspect that somewhere a crime is being committed," he said. "Yes," said Vimes. "Quite close, I think." Carrot was shown in, with his helmet under his arm at a respectful angle. He gazed at the select company, licked his lips nervously, and saluted. Everyone was looking at him. It was hard not to notice Carrot in a room. There were bigger people than him in the city. He didn't loom. He just seemed, without trying, to distort things around him. Everything became background to Corporal Carrot. "At ease, Corporal," said Vimes. "What's up? I mean," he added quickly, knowing Carrot's erratic approach to colorful language, "what is the reason for you being here at this time?" "Got something to show you, sir. Sir, I think it's from the "We'll just go and talk about it outside, shall we?" said Vimes. Dr. Crucius hadn't twitched a muscle. Lord Arl sat back. "Well, I must say I'm impressed," he said. "I'd always thought you watchmen were a pretty ineffective lot, but I see you're pursuing your duty at all times. Always on the alert for the criminal mind, eh?" "Oh, yes," said Vimes. "The criminal mind. Yes." The cooler air of the ancestral hallway came as a blessing. He leaned against the wall and squinted at the card. "Gone." You said you saw something in the courtyard?" Carrot began. "What's it gone?" "Maybe something wasn't in the Assassin's Museum, and they put this sign on it," said Carrot. "Like, removed for cleaning? They do that in museums." No, I shouldn't think... What do you know about museums, anyway? Oh, well, sir, said Carrot. I sometimes visit them on my day off. The one in the university, of course, and Lord Vetinari lets me look around the old palace one, and then there's the guild ones. They generally let me in if I ask nicely. And there's the Dwarf Museum off Rhyme Street. Is there? Said Vimes, interested despite himself. He'd walked along Rhyme Street 1,000 times. Yes, sir, just up Whirligig Alley. Fancy that. What's in it? Many interesting examples of dwarf bread, sir. Vimes thought about this for a moment. That's not important right now, he said. This isn't how you spell gone, anyway. Yes, it is, sir, said Carrot. I meant, it's not how gone is normally spelled. He flicked the card back and forth in his fingers. A man'd have to be a fool to break into the Assassin's Guild, he said. Yes, sir. The anger had burned away the fumes. Once again he felt... Not the thrill, that wasn't the right word. The sense of something. He still wasn't sure what it was, but it was there, waiting for him. Samuel Vimes, what's going on? Lady Ramkin shut the dining room door behind her. I was watching you, she said. You are being very rude, Sam. I was trying not to be. Lord Earl is a very old friend. Is he? Well, I've known him a long time. I can't stand the man, actually. But you were making him look foolish. He was making himself look foolish. I was merely helping. But I've often heard you being rude about dwarfs and trolls. That's different. I've got it right. That idiot wouldn't know a troll if it walked over him. Oh, he would know if a troll walked over him, said Carrot helpfully. Some of them weigh as much as... What's so important anyway? Said Lady Ramkin. We're looking for whoever killed Chubby, said Vimes. Lady Ramkin's expression changed instantly. Well, that's different, of course, she said. People like that should be publicly flogged. Why did I say that? Thought Vimes. Maybe because it's true. The gone goes missing. Next minute, there's a little dwarf artificer thrown in the river with a nasty draft where his chest should be. They're linked. Now all I have to do is find the links. Carrot, can you come back with me to Hammerhawks? Yes, Captain. Why? I want to see inside that workshop. And this time, I've got a dwarf with me. More than that, he added, I've got Corporal Carrot. Everyone likes Corporal Carrot.